Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Life Lessons and Laughter. That's the laughter. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. The weather is warming up. Where are we? Right now, we are in the middle of May. So there seems to be a lot of action happening now, a lot of busyness, a lot of things going on. And one of the things that I've been working on recently and I've noticed is, if you pay attention to the voice in your head and kind of what it's saying, a lot of what it does throughout the day is it assesses and judges everything that's happening, as good, bad. I like this, I don't like this, I want more of this, I don't want to experience this at all. And since so many people are identified with that voice, it's basically controlling how we go through life. So what I mean by that is, it triggers emotional responses. It's not like most people, it's not like you have a thought like, oh, I like that or I don't like that, and then what do I want for lunch? Sometimes that certainly happens, but if there's a lot of times, if there's something that we don't like, it's not our preference. I think preference is a good word for this conversation, because it's kind of what it is. We all have preferences, and we don't think much about our preferences. Like, what do they do? What does having preferences actually do? And just to be clear, I'm going to preface this by saying, technically, there is nothing wrong with having preferences. There isn't. And realistically, I don't think we could ever get rid of our preferences completely, even if we wanted to. We can lower them on the consciousness scale. Instead of them controlling our lives and running through our brain constantly, they can kind of be like a little bit of a background noise, which is much healthier, because there's nothing wrong with having preferences. It's just when they control you, that's when and when they determine when you're happy and when you're sad and when you're frustrated and when you're angry and when you get to feel good, like that's not cool. That's not helpful. And that concept is a very foundational concept in all spiritual teachings. A lot of times there's talk about controlling our ego or our brain or our emotions, and that they're harmful or they're bad. There's nothing wrong with our ego. It serves a purpose. There's nothing wrong with our thinking or our feeling. These are all assets. These are all gifts. These are all aspects of how we interact with reality here on Earth. So there's nothing wrong with them. We have them for a reason. It's just when they're in control over our consciousness, that's when they become a problem. Because they're all technically, even our thinking it's not creative. It's not the end all be all. It's nothing really creative comes from our thinking. It comes through a moment of stillness. That's where all true creativity comes from. This is why people can write masterpieces in music in 15 minutes, you know, and art. It's where real art comes from and all this stuff. So it's not, our thinking is basically a database. It's just it's all the information that we've experienced throughout our entire lives gives us our database. And then we can take pieces of that information and mesh it together and combine things and spit out a logical conclusion sometimes using our brain. But it's not the end all be all. There's something beyond it, and that is divine wisdom. Right. So my point is just because thinking, I think, takes a little bit extra clarity to understand what I mean when I say we can't let it control us, because it's a little bit more obvious to understand that we shouldn't let our emotions control us, you know, because we can see our emotions aren't really a thinking entity, that they shouldn't be in control of things. They shouldn't be running the life. They should be they're an asset. They're a gift. They're used to capture our attention and let us know what's important. And you know, our feelings serve a purpose, and so does our thinking. And so do our preferences. But they're not supposed to override our consciousness or override divine wisdom or override our intuition or anything like that. So it's not that any of these things are bad. So we're not fighting them. We're just kind of reorganizing them and putting them back in their place. It's like, okay, me and my consciousness, what I truly am is consciousness. Okay, that's the boss. That's as far as what's in my body. You know, above that we've got God, the universe, whatever. But then when it starts coming into our personal expression of universal intelligence as us, now all of a sudden we have consciousness. Okay, so that's what we truly are. We are awareness. We are consciousness, and that is supposed to be in charge. And then under that, then we have our thinking, then we have our feeling, then we have our preferences somewhere. It's and when the thinking and the feeling and the preferences go above our consciousness and they're running the show, that's what causes the problems. We're out of balance. We're out of order. We're not in it's not the proper structure for how we're supposed to function. So our preferences aren't really that important. And our ego doesn't like the thought of that. It wants to protect our preferences, because like as soon as you start playing around with your preferences and going, oh, my preferences don't matter, our ego goes, oh no, of course they matter. If you don't tell the universe what to do, you don't tell God what you want, then you're not going to get it. Like you have to want everything to be your way, or else it's never going to be your way. That's what the ego says. So it panics, right? It's like, wait, let's slow down and look at that for a minute. Is that realistic? Do I actually see this is how you know that ego is a non-thinking entity, because if you really dive into what it wants or what it thinks it wants, it doesn't make any sense. Because what I just said, it is something that the ego would say. So the ego thinks it wants you to have everything your way. It thinks it wants all your ducks in a row. That is literally impossible in life. I mean, because it's constantly changing. We live in a constantly changing reality. So if you're lucky enough to get all your ducks in a row, one of them's going to wander off or keel over and die, or something's going to happen. And very shortly after your ducks are in a row, they're not going to be in a row. Like that's, I 100,000% guarantee that. You will never get your life the way that you want it and have it stay like that, ever. It's unrealistic. It's not going to happen ever to anyone. So when we start letting go of our preferences and taking them so seriously, what it does is it opens us up to the flow. This is the art of allowing. We learn to allow and interact with reality as it is. See, when we're focused on our preferences and trying to control things and get things set up the way that we want them to be, what happens is we lose ourselves. We're too concerned with doing that. And then when something doesn't go right, we're like, oh, damn it. Okay, that's not. Okay, how do I control it and get it back to the way that I want? And we're just constantly doing that. We're just constantly moving puzzle pieces around, trying to get everything together. And then if we're lucky enough to get everything together, somebody walks by and hits our puzzle board, and all the pieces go flying up again. I'm like, oh no, must get them back. Oh no, I don't like it. I hate corner. Oh, I like the corner pieces. I hate the middle pieces. And life is going, it doesn't matter. Let it go. Stop trying to control everything. You're never going to do it. You know, there's a flow to life. And when we allow that flow to dictate what transpires, we can kind of steer it somewhat sometimes when we're in the flow. You know, we're interacting with the flow, but we're not in control of it. There's a flow to life on this planet that's been going on for billions and billions of years without our help. And it's going to continue on without our help. So that's why our preferences don't matter that much, because it's unrealistic. We're not going to get what we want. We're not going to get everything that we want in the way that we want it, at the time that we want it, looking the way we want it. And then even if we do this, we're going to experience much more times where we don't. So why is that a thing? Why is that taking up so much of our consciousness? And what it does is it creates an enormous amount of suffering, as we're trying to control things that we can't control. You know, so if we learn to go with the flow of life, what happens is we actually find out that our preferences are based on our minuscule perspective that's individualized in each person. It's like, have any of you stopped and slowed down and thought how minuscule and tiny and minimized and puny and restricted that your personal perspective is? It's extremely tiny. And so is mine. Because we are part of the universe. Like, I don't think you'll be fully able to wrap your brain around this. I don't think I can fully wrap my brain around it. But I understand, like, if I just tried to say, okay, try to simplify it to get my brain to kind of understand this a little bit. Like, okay, how many people are in the world? Well, I think there's just under 8 billion. Okay, so 8 billion. Like, billion that's a big number, right? Like, just planet Earth, just human beings, not mentioning all the other consciousness that's on this planet, but just this is like, we're closing, just to say our consciousness is one of 8 billion, just to get that down to that. And that seems like a big number. 1 in 8 billion, that's freaking tiny. But just to get there, we have to dismiss the rest of the entire universe. And we have to dismiss everything else that is on planet Earth. We have to dismiss all of that. We have to dismiss 99.99999999999, probably off to infinity, % of the universe. We have to dismiss all of it just to get to the idea that we are one of 8 billion. Like, does that compute to, like I said, I couldn't fully wrap my brain around it, but hopefully that gives you some vague idea about how minuscule your perspective is, and then do some research on this. This is something that kind of comes up regularly. And I learned many years ago, but I don't remember the exact numbers. So search it, find out for yourself. How many bits of information are there per, like, at every given moment? Let me see if I can do this. I wonder if I did this on another podcast recently. How many bits of information are we exposed to every moment that our brain takes in and dismisses? See if I can get a quick answer here. Your brain receives roughly 11 million bits per second, though you only consciously process about 40 to 50 bits in that same time frame. The vast majority is filtered out by the thalamus to prevent sensory overload. Okay, so let that settle in for a moment. Roughly 11 million bits per second of information that we are exposed to, that our brain receives. And we only consciously process 40 to 50 out of 11 million every second. So do you see how minimized we are? And we think we know what's best for us. Oh, that kills me. It kills me. It's one of my favorite things. It makes me laugh. We think we know what's best for us. It's absurd. This is one of the reasons why, like, I kind of drew a line with the word prejudice to this, because I think some of you know I like words that trigger me, because they stop my brain dead and they make me look at something, right? So I don't, and it's usually negative words. It's not things that I want to be. They help me not be these things, right? So prejudice is one of those words. Prejudice means prejudging. So that means to judge before, right? Before what? That's what prejudice means, prejudging. Pre means before, judge means judge. So you judge before. That's what the word prejudice means. Before what? Well, before you have all the information necessary to make an accurate assessment. That's what it means. So from our minuscule perspective, we don't have the beginnings of the capability to discern what is right for us and what is not right for us. And this is where your ego goes, half of your ego's life depends on controlling you. And how does it control you? Well, it locks you into these belief systems. And then we don't slow down enough to look at them through, like I'm trying to do right now, is to really look through this, go, okay, my ego thinks my preferences are important. Is that true? No. Not when I look at the big scheme of things and understand that there's some sort of divine intelligence that's created an entire universe and that can put together systems like that keep me alive on an unconscious level and grow babies inside of mom's bellies and have wildebeest navigating the world across the globe with no GPS system, and a particular fish that lives because of a particular bird that poops in the water because it eats a particular tree that's along the river. Like, are you kidding me? Like, there's this intelligence that's way beyond anything that I could ever do. But I think that I'm smarter than it. Okay, so this is, once you start grasping that, you go, okay, maybe my preferences aren't that important. And how much suffering is our preferences causing us? A great amount, because what our preferences do is they give us the illusion of control. So we try to control life. We can't. So that's going to cause suffering, right? Life rarely unfolds the way that we think it should in the way we think it should. Why? Because we don't know. We don't have the information necessary to look at this. I mean, you know, one of the examples I used before was there was this, you know, this kid that lost his father that he was very close to when he was like 12 or something. And everybody's going, oh, no, no, no. He loved his father, you know, this poor boy. And oh no, this is such a tragedy. It's so unfair. Life is so unfair, you know. And his father had a major heart condition. So this guy grows up and creates the first artificial heart and saves, you know, millions, probably touched hundreds of millions of people's lives. Like, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what a particular stimuli is going to do and cause 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the future. We don't know that. But there is an intelligence that does. And that intelligence is governing everything that happens. So maybe we should trust it, since it's got a much better perspective and a much higher IQ than we freaking do. You know, we can't be attached to things. You know, walking in the direction of things is beautiful. You can walk in the direction of whatever you want. I do it every day. You know, I live intentionally. You know, people meet my dog and they're like, oh my God, she's so happy. I've never seen a dog this happy. She's so loving. She's so kind. And wait a minute, you can just put her outside off leash and she doesn't chase any of the chickens on the property. She doesn't run off and get into trouble. She doesn't, no problems. No. You can just walk around with her off leash and let her run free and have a blast and smell whatever she wants while you're meandering around too. Yeah. Why? Because I intended that, and then I did what it took to try to get that to the best of my ability. But I didn't have some attachment to it. I didn't lock on and say she must do this every time, and if she doesn't, then there's something wrong with the world. Like, no, that's an attachment. That's control. I just put the effort in to train her. And then I got a dog that, like, not only do I enjoy more because I don't have to worry about her all the time or try to control her behavior because she doesn't understand what's expected of her or what's going on in the world. She knows exactly what's expected of her. Why? Because I taught her. Right? And because she knows what's expected of her, because she understands that she can't chase chickens in the Dominican Republic, you chase somebody's chicken, your dog isn't going to be alive very long, assuming they catch it and kill the chicken, right? So, like, because chickens are people's food, they don't have a lot of money over here, right? So you can't live out in where I live up in the mountains in the Campo and have some dog killing chickens. Because the people will they'll come over and kill your dog. I mean, it's, but there's, I don't have to worry about that. There's no fear. I don't, and my dog can roam around off leash free. So she has a better life. It's not just about me. It's about her. Why do you think she's so happy? Because she gets to do whatever she wants within the parameters of what she was taught. And there's tons that she can do. And there's tons of freedom for her to have. But if I had to have her on a leash all the time, well, that minimizes her freedom, which minimizes her happiness. You see? Like, so we can still live intentionally. Like, I moved over to the DR because I like lots of things over here: the lifestyle, the people, the cost of living, the freedom. I love that type of stuff, so I moved over here. Okay, well, that was some action I took, but I didn't move over here to be happy. If I never moved over here, I would still be happy. Happiness doesn't come from me moving here, or it doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. So I'm not attaching my happiness to something and say, oh, if I get it, then I'll be happy. No, I have to be happy now. And I'm going to walk towards things that I like. And so people look at my life and they're like, oh my God, you got this great dog. You live in the mountains of the DR. You have your own business. You do what you love. You got this great son. Boy, your life is just, you got it made. Boy, it's easy. You know what? And I intentionally walk towards every one of those things without an attachment. And I walk towards a lot of other things without attachments. Like, you guys only see the stuff that worked out. You didn't see all the things that didn't work out. You didn't see all the businesses I tried to start before. You didn't see all the business ventures I've walked towards or researched in the last several years. And then when one works out, everybody's like, oh my God, Glenn's so lucky. He just manifests things so easy. It's like, no, I tried 30 other things before that worked. I don't have a crystal ball, just like none of you have a crystal ball. So I walk towards things without an attachment, but I don't get all butthurt if something doesn't work out, because I'm not attached to it. And I don't attach my happiness to it. I look at everything as possibilities. I think this is the direction I want to go. I think this would feed my soul, would be a good expression of my happiness. I think it would. And then all of a sudden I do a bunch of work and it doesn't pan out and it doesn't come to fruition. I go, oh, okay, I guess not. But my attachment isn't my happiness is not attached to that. I'm happy whether that turns out or whether it doesn't turn out. It's not contingent on a particular thing. It's not contingent on anything. It comes from within. The attachment is what causes the pain. And it causes us to constrict because we're trying to control reality. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. Okay, what if you made that happen and your entire life fell apart? What if the success of what you think you want would literally cause your death or the death of your loved ones somehow? In some weird way, some butterfly effect that we can't even understand. Would you still want it? Well, you don't know. So why attach to it so much? You don't know what it's going to turn into. So if we understand and drop into the space of allowing the flow of life to go, and then we go with it, we react to, or not react, but respond to what life is doing. Oh, okay. This, you put energy towards something. Oh, this is looking good. Oh, okay. Then all of a sudden you hit a wall and it's like, okay, well, sometimes there's obstacles. Is there a way around it or over it or under it or through it? Sometimes. So, and you look for it and maybe you find it. You put a little effort in. Maybe it goes through. Or sometimes, it's just there to direct us to something else. It's like I've done all kinds of research on all kinds of businesses the last few years, and I've got some that are in play right now. And and just because something isn't looking like it's going to come through, it doesn't mean I abandon it. It means it's there, and I'll put energy towards it every once in a while, and to see if it starts expanding and becoming more. Maybe the timing wasn't right. right? Maybe I needed to do more work on myself to be the vessel in which this happened. And I needed an extra month or two to work on myself, to get myself in alignment so I can be the person that can actually birth this venture into reality. Maybe. So, I don't give up easy, but that doesn't mean I'm running around trying to force things all the time. I'm not. That's one of the biggest things is not forcing things. So sometimes like the one of the business ventures I'm looking at right now is this beautiful retreat center nearby. And a lot of the work on myself, as well as the research I did on my big land project, has helped me in what I'm doing on this project. And I can draw a straight line, be like, wow, all that I learned and expanded to and grew personally as well as intellectually through what I learned through that process is really helpful in this situation too. And sometimes that's how it plays out. Sometimes, when I was doing the land project, did I think the land project was going to work out? Yeah, of course I did. Probably, but I wasn't attached to it. And then now I still have that. I still have that there. It still might work out. But maybe it was to help me grow in a particular area and learn stuff that I can apply in this other venture. And that's why I went through it, because this venture wasn't ready over there, 2 years ago. But now it is. So now I can take all I learned there and bring it into this situation. Maybe, but I'm not attached to it. I'm feeding off and responding to what life is giving me constantly. Oh, yeah. How about over here? Yeah, okay. Hey, I don't care. I don't care what the universe has in store for me, because the one thing that I know is through my own experience is that it's better than whatever I had planned. And this is another part about letting go of our preferences. We think our preferences are so important, and they literally minimize us. It talks about it in recovery. It says something like, in recovery, they say something like, if I were to had all my wishes granted, I would have cut myself short. If my life would have turned into what I wanted it to be, I would have cut myself short. And that's the reality. This is what I'm talking about. Because everything that I've done, there was the hand of some intelligence that was much greater than I that was at work. I didn't do it. I showed up, I participated, I took action when necessary, but I didn't actually do it. There's no way. I think this was probably the first or one of the first times I really saw it play out was, as soon as I woke up spiritually, I had gotten sober and I'm going to move from Florida to Rhode Island. And I'm like, okay. And I'm talking to a lot of people about this because I'm trying to get input and look at it from different ways and all this stuff. And people like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Well, where are you going to work? But I don't know. Where are you going to live? I don't know. Is your ex-wife going to let you see your son? I don't know. So you're going to go to court and try to see him every other weekend? No, I'm gonna be in his life like on a regular basis. Like, I don't know how many days a week, but multiple days every week. I want to see him and be in his life and be the kind of like a daily father figure, even if it isn't literally daily. But that's what I'm going to do. And it was that's what I was walking towards. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, so I couldn't attach to it. I just wanted to be near my son and to be his father on a regular basis. So I walked towards it. So I researched and I looked into things. And then all of a sudden, I find out my aunt and uncle had just moved to Rhode Island to be with my cousin. And they had an extra room and were inviting me to come stay with them. until I could get an apartment and a job. I didn't do that. I didn't I didn't get my aunt and uncle to move to Rhode Island, you know. And then they moved back to Massachusetts right after I moved out, you know. And they've commented that like that, you know, now in hindsight, they see that, you know, God was directing them to move to Rhode Island. Part of the reason was to help me. You know, maybe not the whole reason, but it was divine perfection. You can't make this stuff up, you know? So that's how I ended up there. They helped me get, you know, I job searched from their place. I slept at their place. They helped me move into my apartment. You know, like, I mean, they helped me a lot. And like, I had no way of planning on that or projecting that. You know, and then all of a sudden, you know, like 9 months after I'm there and I finally get a job and I'm like, okay, I have an apartment. Now all of a sudden my ex-wife's going to move like to where my son's, I don't know, 30 minutes away from me or something. And I'm like, I want to be near him. I don't want to start including travel time every time I'm going to see my son. So, you know, why? Well, she needed to go back. She wanted to go back to school and work part-time. So she needed a babysitter. She wasn't going to live with her parents anymore. She needed a babysitter. Oof. Oh, you know, next thing you know, I rearrange my schedule, get my son 5 days a week. Instead of, you know, an hour or two every week in her mom's basement. Now all of a sudden he's with me 5 days a week. So I go to court and get that locked in as my visitation times because I knew she'd take it as soon as she was finished school. So I got that locked in. And that's how it was until I got custody of him, you know, whatever, 8 years later or something. But that's how I, you know, like, I can't plan this stuff is my point. I can put effort towards walk in the direction of stay open to possibilities and then see what plays out. And when it plays out, it's much better than anything I could have come up with. I couldn't have come up with either of those scenarios. I could have sat down and thought creatively for decades and probably still never come up with those two scenarios. Oh, I know how everything's going to work out. My ex is going to decide to go back to school and move in with her boyfriend at the same time. Huh? Oh, my aunt and uncle will move. You can't think this stuff up. So it's responding to life instead of resisting it. And when do we resist it? When it doesn't meet our preferences. When something happens and we go, I don't like that, then we resist it. Why? If something happens and we like it, we're not resisting it. Right? We like it. Of course, we're not resisting it. But when something happens that we don't like, we resist it. And we think that if we don't resist it, it's going to happen more. That's that little food that our unconscious ego feeds us to help keep us stuck. And it's simply not true. Just because something happens that we don't like, we don't have to be angry or frustrated. It doesn't have to upset us. And that is, you know, like that's something we've combined. A lot of confusion and dysfunction comes with combining two or more things, right? When you combine two or more things and then you look at it as if it's one, it's confusing because it's, you know, this is why we say, like, if you want to get further from the truth, you complicate. If you want to get closer to the truth, you simplify, right? This is a law. So like when you bring two or more things into one thing and you look at it as one thing, then all of a sudden it's confusing because you're like, well, yeah, but it has multiple properties and I don't know what to do because if I do this, then that's not right. And if I do that, that's not right. So it's like, yeah, that's because you're combining two things. You think that when something happens that you don't like, you have to be upset. And people defend that, like because 50 years ago, some psychological study realized that stuffing emotions is not good. So we go, okay, well, I have the right to be upset. Yeah, sometimes things are going to happen in our lives and our initial reaction is going to be to get upset. Sometimes that's going to happen, right? But we don't have to stay there. We think that if we have two choices. We either have to be upset or we're stuffing our emotions. But that's the only two options most people know about. So if they're like, oh, that, they did that and that really pissed me off, be like, like to me, I'm like, okay, that's the initial thing. They did something, you didn't like it, and now you're upset. Got it. That's understandable, perhaps even reasonable, perhaps even natural. But then what? Like, to me, that's the beginning. But that most people, that's just where they stay. So they'll carry that resentment and that negative energy inside of them forever, for their entire lives. And and then anything that reminds them of it upsets them. Every time they think of it, it upsets them. And if you go, well, why are you carrying that around? That was 20 years ago. And they're like, well, because they did this to me, and it's obviously upsetting. I mean, what do you want me to not be upset when somebody does something that I don't like? Well, yeah, like they did it 20 years ago, and you're still upset now. You're carrying that for 20 years. Like the initial reaction to get upset is fine, like I said, and possibly even natural. But then what? Look into forgiveness, look into perspectives and going, okay, well, really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. I experienced something I didn't like. Well, it was a big enough thing for me to say, I don't like this. I don't like people who do that type of thing in my life. So I'm not going to have this person in my life. So now they're no longer in my life. Oh, okay. So you addressed it. You set a boundary that in this case was pretty extreme, cutting somebody out of your life because of one incident, or maybe it was multiple incidents, whatever. For some reason, you determined that cutting that person out of your life was the appropriate thing. Great. Now you need to work on the energy you have stored because you're resentful for them and your mindset around that situation. Because as long as you see yourself as their victim and you can't see how you're okay, even though it happened, it's not denial. It's not pretending it didn't happen. It's understanding that you're okay, even though somebody did something that you didn't like. They didn't destroy your life. If you're still thinking that everybody else is destroying your life and that's why you're miserable, this podcast might not be for you. You're going to have to get on the other side of that victim mentality at some point. So my point is sometimes things are going to happen that are against our preferences. And sometimes we might even get upset, but that's not the end. That's the beginning. We need to learn to process things and understand that sometimes people are going to do things or sometimes circumstances are going to happen that we don't particularly prefer. But staying angry doesn't prevent them from happening again. It actually does the opposite, because whatever we resist persists. Because everything is energy. So if we're pushing against something, we're giving it our energy. That's why whatever we resist persists. Oh, I don't want that to happen. Like worry and resentment are kind of the same thing, the way that I'm talking right now. Worry and resentment is basically manifesting what you don't want. I don't want that to happen. The universe doesn't understand don't want. It understands energy and topic. This person keeps putting their attention, because attention is energy. This person keeps putting their attention on this. It's not, they're not putting attention to it not wanting it to happen. They're putting attention to it. That's it. Okay. So somebody steals money from you and you go, oh, people steal money. People steal money. I got to watch out because I don't want people to steal my money. People are stealing my money. People are stealing my money. I have to watch out because people are stealing my money. And then all of a sudden, you know what happens? More people steal your money. Why? Because you're putting out energy towards stealing money. Energy. Oh, stealing money. Stealing money. It keeps expanding. Stealing money. Stealing money. Stealing money. Stealing money. Stealing money. Gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you experience it more and more often. But that's what happens energetically. Now, I understand that, you know, we can, I know what the ego is going to say. It's going to be like, well, we can protect ourselves from people stealing money. We can learn from our past. Yes, we can, but that is not emotionally energetic. That's intellectual and action. That's different. So we can learn from our past. Learning from our past is a very good idea. See, this is when our preferences, we can kind of play with our preferences in a healthy way, not in an all-consuming way, right? Like I said in the beginning, there's nothing wrong with having preferences. There's nothing wrong with somebody stealing your money and you going, I would rather not experience that again. Okay, that's reasonable. So what action could you take to not have people steal your money? Well, I left my car unlocked. Okay, so maybe you don't leave your car unlocked anymore. Good idea. Nice adjustment. But that's not anger. You're not carrying around, yeah, but somebody stole money from me and it's unfair. And that's energetic. That's emotional. That doesn't help anything. Staying angry doesn't help the situation. It doesn't prevent it from happening. It actually induces it to happen more often. Excuse me. But what we can do is we can use that other gift of a brain we have and go, okay, how is there a way I could prevent this from happening? Just like materialistically, logistically. Well, yeah, you could lock your car. Okay. Lock the car. Well, you know what? Nobody's stolen anything for quite a while. That car locking thing worked out pretty well. So we can play with things like that. But it's the emotional attachment. It's this rationalization that we have the right to be angry all the time. We've combined something happens that I don't like and us getting angry. And that's one thing. Like, why do I say it's one thing? I'm going to probably drop this in a minute, but I just want to clarify why I said that was one thing. It's because if you go up to somebody and you go, if they're upset about something and you go, well, yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. There's a way to not be upset. They usually get very angry with you. What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm not supposed to be? Of course I'm upset. They defend their right to be upset. Why? Because something bad happened to them they didn't like. So of course they're upset. That's what happens. It's one thing. Something that you don't like happens and you're upset. That's one thing. You try to separate those two and people get very upset. Well, I have the right to be upset. They hurt me. I'm supposed to be upset. It's like, no, it's something that you don't like and being upset is two different things. You don't have to be upset. It doesn't benefit you to stay upset just because something happened. Maybe the initial reaction was warranted. Why do we have those emotions? To trigger our brain and let us know, because we're exposed to all these bits of information. Remember how I was reading earlier in the podcast? We're exposed to 11 million bits of information per second, and we need some sort of guidance system to tell us what should grab our attention. So sometimes when we have an emotional reaction to something, that's our way of our body going, hey, Glenn, this is a big one. You should pay attention to this. Because if you don't, like, it could keep happening in your life and you don't really like it. Oh, good point. Thank you for triggering this emotion in me, so I know this isn't one of those other 40 to 50 bits of information I take in out of the other 11 million, and that this one is actually important enough for me to actually put my consciousness on it to try to find out a solution or see if there is one. Thank you. That's what our emotion is for. To separate the important things that we should put our consciousness on to try to figure out how to navigate in a healthy way, to separate those things from the other 30 or 40 things that we take in per second. So, yeah. I think I'm getting towards the end. I'm just scanning through some little bullet points. Divine timing rarely looks the way we expect. Well, that's because our perspective sucks. God's looking at the world, taking the whole thing into consideration all at once, and we're looking at it in this microscopic, tiny little. It's like we're looking at life through a straw, and we can see so little, but we think that we know everything. You know, peace comes from working with reality, not resisting it. Reality is that something happened. It did. Whether you label it as good, bad, or indifferent doesn't really matter. The fact is that it happened. And if it happened, then it's part of reality, your reality, at least at this moment. So if you just interact with it instead of judging it and claiming it and filing it under something came out of nowhere and hurt me. So we don't panic when life shifts unexpectedly. When something happens that we don't expect, like that's because our perspective is so small. Allow it to happen. The art of allow life shifts to happen. Now, we can have an initial emotional response sometimes. Oh, I didn't expect that. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, that's okay. That's your initial reaction. That just means pay attention to this. That's all. It doesn't mean you're supposed to induce 40 years of suffering over it. It just means, hey, something just happened. How do you want to process this? Oh, okay. Well, that was an unexpected shift. I didn't see that coming. Okay. Well, then I guess it wasn't meant for me. Or maybe it's a roadblock. Maybe I have to put some attention to see if I can find my way around it. Or, oh my God, what a gift. It's something that I wanted. It's better than I imagined. And that's what really happens when we stay open. It becomes better than we imagined. When a door closes, there's a better one opening. Every time. Otherwise, why are we here? To suffer? I just can't believe that, So I think I'll wrap up with this. Trying to control life creates our suffering. Trying to control things because we don't have control over things. We suffer more from our expectations from reality. All emotional suffering is resistance to what is. Like if you break your arm and you sit there and going, oh, this hurts. Oh, this hurts. Oh, this hurts so much. Oh my God, this hurts. Oh, this hurts so much. If you do that, do you think it's going to hurt more or less than if you try to distract yourself from thinking about something else? Maybe like, okay, this hurts. That's reality. Yeah, it hurts. And it's going to hurt for a little while. So I might as well just accept the reality that this is going to hurt for a little while. Maybe distract myself. Maybe put my attention on something else. Maybe I can watch a movie. Maybe I can scroll. Now, which way do you think your arm is going to hurt more? Focusing on how much it hurts or distracting yourself from the fact that it hurts? I think it's pretty clear. Where we put our attention and us feeling like a victim and saying things like this shouldn't have happened or this shouldn't happen, that's what causes the emotional suffering. Most of it. We can experience a little suffering as an initial reaction, but when it goes on and on and on, it's our refusal to accept reality as it is. So that's, you take this whole concept and it basically boils into that. Art of allowing is the opposite of expectations of reality. We're not suffering because something happened that we didn't like, and we're taking it personally, like there's some, like for some reason the loving force that created everything, that shows itself to be loving in every way, shape, and form, somehow wants to burn us like a magnifying glass to an ant. So let go of the control, let go of the preferences, let go of the expectations, let go of the attachment, all of that. Just allow and respond to what's actually happening. Oh, wow, that happened. Oh, ooh, what a gift. Oh, that happened. I don't particularly like that, but okay, is there a way I can prevent it from happening in the future? Well, yeah, I can make that adjustment. Okay, I'll do that. All right, whatever. But not letting it bring us down and affect our mood and carry it with us for decades. So practice that art of allowing. I've been walking around, the way I've been doing it is I'm just kind of going, whatever I want isn't that important. Stop trying to get what I want. Then all of a sudden it's like I'm thinking like, oh, I want to go to this place to eat. I wonder if they're open. And then I get there and they're closed. And it's like, oh man, I was hoping to eat there and they're closed. That sucks. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, Glenn. Like, it just is. Yeah, I don't have to experience emotional suffering. Like, and see, it's those little things. We think that they're not that big of a deal, but they add up. All of a sudden you're let down because a restaurant's closed. And then all of a sudden they didn't have something you wanted at the grocery store. And your friend is busy when you were going to go out. And this and you have a problem with your car, and all these little things are happening. And if you're not not careful, what they're doing is they're all adding up to this huge resentment and victim mentality and resistance and all this big problem. It's all those little things in the daily life that add up. So if we're conscious of the way that we're processing what's happening in life, and we have a better attitude, it's all attitude based. We go with the flow. We go, oh yeah, that happened. Maybe it's not my preference, but whatever. Things happen that aren't my preference. It's normal. The whole world isn't here to make Glenn happy. That's not the principle of the universe. Let's make Glenn happy, and then everything else is secondary. That's not how the universe works. So once I change my attitude, and not feel let down every time something doesn't go my way, and I just go, oh, this is just part of it. Okay. Ooh, I get curious. Ooh, what's this way? Ooh, what's behind this door? Wow, I wonder what will happen next. Ooh, then I'm happy on a daily basis, and things go my way more. All right, that's going to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Best wishes. Talk with you soon.